I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on this. Do you think that this is a turning point in the culture war? The big release of the South Park Panderverse special. Did anybody have a chance to see that?
I thought it was hilarious. I was watching it, um, and just so many things just like stand out, just like little jabs. It's not even like not just the whole thing about like Kathleen Kennedy and Star Wars and everything. It's even like tiny jabs that they take at companies. I was just laughing the entire time. I loved it.
I like, just like Dr. just said, the little jabs were funny, but to be honest, one of the funniest parts to me was when his wife kept saying, the door needs to be fixed on the oven. He's like, I'm working on it. Like, that was so funny. Like,
Yeah.
that's a great episode. And Cartman as Kathleen Kennedy is gonna just live rent free in my head forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw it. I thought it was pretty even-handed. I mean, like, most people don't even know who Kathleen Kennedy is, so now she's a household name after that. People are just going to be yelling her name.
Yeah. Well, be careful. She might be under your bed.
It's one of those things where, if depending on what side of the spectrum you're on, people are saying, "Oh, they really own this group. They really own this group." And one side saying they really own this group, and the other side's going, "They really own this group." And I think they actually took a pretty good nuanced approach to kind of poking fun at everybody, which is kind of what they did, right? Mm-hmm. But the response to that it's been really interesting to see online. And a lot of people are seeing it as a big cultural moment because for the first time, this major fixture in entertainment in Hollywood, one of the most iconic series of the last 20, 25 years, is really poking at something that has become so invasive in the world. Mm-hmm. And Elon Musk has chimed in on this after watching it, and he's throwing out some pretty I don't know, I guess based things, I guess, when it comes to the response to all this on his profile, which leads to a larger conversation. Once again, a lot of people are looking at this as a kind of a point where like this could be a turning point in the whole the culture war nonsense that's going on. And he followed up by saying, the Great Awakening from woke has happened. This is good for civilization. You know, the term woke, is this show, I would say, is fairly anti woke. We just like, I would say the show represents the 80% of the culture that just don't really care and just don't want any of this nonsense to be invaded in our space. Are we tired of everything that's happening? Yeah, absolutely. And we want things to kind of go back to normalcy, I suppose. But to see Elon Musk say this on a platform and has 33.4 million impressions on the tweet. I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on this. Do you think that this is a turning point in the culture war of wokeness versus traditional thinking? And let's start with you, Wicked.
I think it will, because just like Alpha said, not everyone knows who Kathleen Kennedy is, and now people might look more into it and be like, wow, she actually kind of did mess some stuff up, because there's a lot of people that just casually watch stuff. They don't really get into the background, the social politics and all that. And it's funny because people say, oh, just common sense, but some people they just don't think about that. Not coming at them like they don't have common sense, but this issue just isn't brought up to a lot of people. And I think we talk about it as YouTubers and stuff. I think more independent creators bring the problems up, and South Park is huge. So the fact that it's being brought up on a big platform in Hollywood is going to have people talking. I think Kathleen Kennedy is probably like foaming at the mouth at that episode, and they could have gone even worse at her. They were a little calm with it. I feel like they could have gone a little more hard, but I appreciate what they did, and it was funny. They still kept it funny and light, but yeah, I do think it's going to bring up a conversation for sure.
I'm right there with Wicked. It's been a while since I've actually sat down and watched South Park, so I'm not really sure how much overlap there is between people who watch South Park and people who are in with the news, like what Kathleen Kennedy's doing and Disney in general and Star Wars. So I'm not sure how many people are watching South Park who already know what's going on, but I think it will definitely start a conversation. Like Wicked was saying, the audience for South Park is huge. And I think it's really going to get a lot of people talking about it. And that's really what's going to jumpstart a lot of things. Just having people online talking about it, people maybe who are younger who watch South Park talking about it in schools and bringing it over there. So I think it's going to reach a lot farther than a lot of discussions that are already going on. So I think it will. I don't know how much it's going to really like kickstart a whole cultural movement, but I think it is a great stepping stone for getting more people thinking about these ideas.
Alpha, what are your thoughts? Sorry, Gannon. Gannon, what is Gannon's official thoughts on Elon Musk coming in?
Make better cars, man. I don't know. It's just Elon Musk. Go into space, do your thing with your money.
When you look at this and you look at the tweet itself, the tweet itself has, his thoughts on it, and he's like, "This is good for civilization." Then he's responded by Stephen King, and Stephen King is your, he is your face of like, I don't know, wokeness, I suppose, right? And he responds with bullshit. And if you look at this, it's kind of a I don't know, a 10-to-1 ratio when it comes to the likes versus his likes, right?
Mhm.
Which I think it's, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just off on this, but I feel like that's a pretty regular ratio for this line of thinking. When it comes to, you have your, in the real space of America, right? I'm not talking about the coastal cities. I'm talking about in America, most of America. I would say that's pretty accurate, like a 10-to-1, 9-to-1 ratio. Like you have your extreme thoughts, you're not your thoughts, but your extreme people who feel this way, but they're just very, very loud. And maybe I'm totally off on this. I don't know. I think that's pretty accurate.
It's really interesting because I'm a college teacher, and I see so much of that coming in from faculty, from administration, a lot of pushing of agendas. You very much see it in K through 12 schools. That's a whole other conversation that I'd love to delve into. But actually, I'm seeing more and more students waking up. I'm seeing a lot more college. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot more college age students waking up, asking questions. They're not sure which way to swing in terms of like social agendas and things like that, but they are asking a lot more questions. I'm having a lot more like really thorough discussions when I actually have, most of my classes are online. Sometimes they meet, synchronously. We have meeting times during the week. I'm seeing a lot more students calling things out, asking questions. So that does give some hope. One of the things we talk about is like intent on things, and in social psychology we talk a lot about and I would say a lot. My students have to deal with it, so
no worries,
all of you. We talk about social marketing and intent, and what is the intent of something versus what kind of like accidentally springs a conversation. And one of the examples I used was the Will Smith slap from the Oscars. And when I first talked about it, that sparked a lot of discussions, and it still does. Like a year or a year and a half later, whatever it's been, and people going in with the idea of like administrators be like, don't talk about that, it's rude, how could he do that, you can't hit somebody. And then the students are like, well, what was the intent? Did he mean to do that? Was Jada making him do it? Did he do it for attention? Were people behind the scenes kind of like egging him on to do it? Things like that. So students are asking a lot of questions, particularly about social psychology, marketing ideas, things they see in the media, looking more at sources. So I try to use those kinds of discussions to spark, well, what are reliable sources that you look at? Everyone gets their news online. How do you figure out what is reliable and what is not? So students are actually, at least that I've had, looking more into, well, I don't trust this news source because they're biased. So I look at multiple avenues online. I look at Twitter, but I also look to see if like it's actually a correct scientific article that they're citing. So it's good to see students actually bringing that to their own attention and questioning things and making sure they have correct sources. But
Wow, that's actually
It's hopeful.
yeah, that is hopeful. That's interesting. You hear this it's complete opposite. You know, colleges
Mhm.
and the irony of what you just said from my perspective is that you said that the students are pointing this out, but the faculty's like, no, 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 don't. You know, like you mentioned the faculty saying, well, we shouldn't talk about this, but the students are like, why the hell should we not talk about this? This is it's important to talk about. You know?
And I think that's why, because like you were saying early on with, like young women dressing up in like the slutty costumes and stuff, trying to get that sort of rebellion going. I think that's why a lot of student and college students are doing that. They're being told not to ask questions, so that makes them want to ask questions. The same way that like telling a student that's a banned book, you shouldn't read it. It makes them go out and try to read the book.
That's interesting. Like the
Mm-hmm.
pushback of it, where they've almost been told this certain, you must think a certain way, and they're saying, well, hold on, I'm going to do this my way, which is very encouraging. But what do you think about this? Leave us a comment down below. We read every single one of them. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button because you have found your home for common sense in the gaming and entertainment worlds.